Although I have shared this with you before, it bears repeating. While some hadith may be exaggerated and some may be untrue, it doesn't matter. All that counts is that this is the sum total of what is known about the Muhammad of Islam. I have reported every significant event recorded by Tabari and Ishaq, the earliest, most respected, and comprehensive chroniclers of the Islamic faith. Therefore, what you have been reading is all Muslims know about their prophet. And that, I dare say, explains their behavior.
Tabari. In the month of Ramadan, February 626, the messenger married Zaynab bint Khuzaymah. She had been married to Tufail, who had divorced her.
I believe that makes her the fifth member of the Prophet's collection.
Tabari and Ishaq. In this year there occurred the disaster of the expedition sent out by the messenger to Bir Maunah. The polytheists had charge of the pilgrimage that year,
confirming that the Hajj was pagan.
Abu Bara, or one who plays with spears, the chief of the Banu Amir, came to the Prophet and presented a gift. Muhammad said, "I do not accept presents from pagans, so become a Muslim if you want me to accept it."
He was willing to commit countless acts of armed robbery against most Arabs and every Jew, but he was unwilling to accept a gift. Further, there is no empirical evidence that shows men behave better who worship one false god rather than many of them.
Muhammad expounded Islam to Abu Bara and invited him to accept it. He explained its advantages for him and Allah's promises to believers. He recited the Quran. Bara did not accept Islam. He said, "Muhammad, this affair of yours is most excellent. If you were to send some of your companions to my people to call them to your religious affair, I would hope that they would respond."
This is great stuff. Muhammad presented the advantages for him to convert his subjects to Islam. Muhammad's religitech was designed to empower dictators. This is why the pelagius doctrine survives after 14th century. Islam wasn't called submission for nothing. Religion as an effective tool in the wrong hands. Allah's prophet reviewed the dark spirit's promises: booty for fighters, loot for the living, and virgins for the victims. What's not to like? But Chief Bara wouldn't accept Islam. Instead, he wanted his people converted. And that is the essence of the doctrine of submission. Even today, the tyrannical despots who rule the Islamic world usually aren't Muslims, but their people usually are. The religion is used to control the masses, to fleece them for the benefit of cleric and king. The chief knew that Islam would only be to his advantage if his people were coerced into submission.
Tabari and Ishaq. The apostle was afraid to send his people to Abu's tribe for fear they would kill them, but Chief Abu gave Muhammad a surety,
a collateral guarantee.
So he sent Mundhr, the quick-to-see death, with 40 to 70 riders. After halting at Bir Maunah, they sent Haram to Amir Tufail with a letter from Muhammad. When Haram arrived, Amr killed him. Then he set out and took the Muslims by surprise, surrounding them while they were encamped. On seeing them, the Muslims snatched up their swords and fought until they were all killed except Ka'b. The enemy left him at the point of death.
Remember, this is after Allah had revealed the 8th and 3rd surahs, so Muslims believed that they had to fight to the death. As we pick up this story, word gets back to the Prophet.
Ishaq. Amr and an Ansari were out grazing camels and saw vultures circling around the camp. They went to investigate and saw their companions lying in their blood. The Ansari said, "What do you think we should do?" Amr answered, "Go tell the Prophet."
But they were spotted, and the Ansari was killed. Amr was taken prisoner. He lied, we're told,
taking an oath on his mother's life.
So they set him free. Amr hightailed it
toward Medina, until when he was at Karkaka, 2 Banu Amir men halted near him in the shade. They had a compact of protection with Allah's messenger, of which Amr knew nothing. Amr waited until they were asleep. Then he killed them, thinking that he had taken vengeance for the Muslims who had been slain. When he came to the messenger, he told him what had happened. The prophet said, "You have killed men for whom I shall have to pay blood money."
Muhammad's soul wasn't troubled by the news that innocent men had been murdered. His only worry was that coin was going to slip from his pockets. Islam was never about saving souls. It was always about stealing money. In the midst of these Islamic terrorist raids, assassinations, murders, and kidnappings for ransom, the next headline appears somewhat benign. It reads,
Expulsion of the Banu Nadir. Tabari and Ishaq. In the 4th year of the Islamic era, the Prophet expelled the Banu Nadir,
a large Jewish community in Yathrib,
from their homes. The cause of this was that Amr killed 2 men to whom had been given a promise of protection by the apostle. Their chief wrote Muhammad asking him for blood money. So the Prophet turned toward the Nadir,
Jews,
to seek their help in the payment of the blood money. With him were Bakr, Umar, and Ali.
The Muslims had raided a caravan just north of Mecca. Muhammad's adoptive son grabbed another east of Medina. They allegedly earned huge ransoms, selling the Badr captives back to their families. They had plundered the Kanuka Jews, stealing their gold, armor, businesses, and homes. So how could the pirate chest be so bare? The answer is as old as time. Those who steal don't value anything. They go on binges and need ever larger fixes. Easy come, easy go. So turban in hand, Muhammad had to go begging, this time to the kin of those he had previously plundered. Wouldn't you have liked to have been a fly on the wall?
Tabari and Ishaq. When the Prophet came to ask for help in the payment of the blood money, the Jews said, "Yes, Abu al-Qasim,"
Muhammad's real name.
"Of course we will give you the help you want in the way you want it." Then they spoke privately with one another.
Before we listen to what Islam wants us to believe, the Jews said in private, ask yourself, how did the Muslims know? And since they could not have known, what were they trying to accomplish by pretending to know?
Muhammad had gone outside and was sitting by a house wall. The Jews said, "Who will go on the roof of this house and drop a stone, relieving us of him?"
The Muslim sages were trying to justify the exceedingly hostile behavior their prophet was about to exhibit. I do not doubt that the Jews might have wanted the prophet dead. I would have wanted him dead. He was a menace to society, a violent terrorist and common criminal. However, this plot is absurd. There is no chance Allah's guy, the Grand Pontiff of Medina, was sitting in the dirt against the wall of a Jewish home. And there is no chance someone had a stone big enough to kill a man sitting on a thatched and thus pitched roof. Further, the Nadir were prosperous farmers. Had they wanted to execute Muhammad, they would have used an implement more lethal than a stone.
Ishaq. Amar Jihash, who was one of the Jews, came forward and said, "I am your man." He went up to the roof to drop the stone as arranged. Muhammad was with Bakr, Umar, and Ali,
future caliphs all.
And the news of what the people intended came to him from heaven. He got up and said, "Do not leave until I come to you."
This is Ali's second run as stooge. A few years earlier he had been asked to wear the Prophet's pajamas, laying in wait for assassins wielding swords. Ghulim, in his translation of Ishaq's Sirat Rasul Allah, said, "It is clear that a later story has been attached to this incident. Obviously, if the Prophet had overheard their designs, there was no need of a supernatural communication from heaven. In other words, the godly inspiration was a hoax."